Good morning, Mid-Missouri, and thanks for waking up with us here on KOMU 8 News Today. I'm Annabel Thorpe. Since the Capitol riot on Wednesday, there have been many developments regarding arrests, resignations, and President Trump's Twitter suspension. We'll get to all of that soon. But first, Jacob, I was pretty cold walking out the door this morning. I had to bundle up a few jackets. I'm a little bit of a wimp when it comes to the cold, but yes.
Yeah, it was a little bit on the chilly side this morning. It still is a little bit on the chilly side. We've gotten down to right around 25, 26 degrees. You can see our current conditions now. We're sitting at 26, mostly cloudy skies, as has been the case for really the past 96 hours or so. Mostly cloudy skies have predominated there. Dew points at 19, humidity 75%, north-northwest winds at 6 miles an hour, just adding in a little bit of a chill in the air there. And the pressure is at 30.41 inches, which is high pressure. So we're under high pressure right now. And today, as we go throughout the hours, we're going to notice mostly cloudy skies continuing. 29 degrees by noon, 33 by the afternoon. By the way, can't rule out a few flurries this morning, but it's not going to accumulate to anything. Wind chills throughout the day should be in the 20s. Here's your 3-day forecast. Look at this. We are warming up. We are getting more sunshine. We'll talk about it more coming up straight ahead.
All right, thanks so much, Jacob. Protests started in downtown St. Louis yesterday. People are demanding for Senator Josh Hawley to resign. Dozens of demonstrators gathered outside the old courthouse. They urged Hawley to resign following the riot at the Capitol on Wednesday. They believe the Republican senator helped fuel the riots at the nation's capital. Hawley condemned the Wednesday's violence, but he still objected to certified votes for President-elect Joe Biden after the riot ended. And yesterday, the Missouri Democratic Party called on Josh Hawley to also resign and be expelled. In a press release, the party's chair wrote, quote, Josh Hawley aided and abetted an attack on our democracy and the U.S. Capitol. He does not deserve to be called U.S. Senator. Since the attack, Hawley has accepted none of the responsibility that falls squarely at his, Ted Cruz, and Donald Trump's feet. The party also cited the 14th Amendment when calling for Hawley's removal. President Trump has sent more than 26,000 tweets since taking office. But yesterday, there were no tweets. This because Twitter banned the president. NBC's Jolene Kent has the latest.
Tonight, a deafening silence from the president's Twitter account in his waning days as commander-in-chief. Twitter, run by CEO Jack Dorsey, saying after close review of the president's recent tweets, it banned him due to the risk of further incitement of violence. Twitter specifically warning, quote, plans for future armed protests have already begun proliferating on and off Twitter, including a proposed secondary attack on the U.S. Capitol and state Capitol buildings on January 17th. After the ban, the president tried to tweet from other campaign and staff accounts, triggering a game of whack-a-mole, with Twitter quickly taking down his posts. Many platforms have banned or restricted the president's accounts, including Facebook and Instagram, where he's blocked indefinitely and for at least the next 2 weeks.
It's a sad day when big tech has more power than big government, that they can censor the president of the United States.
Because Twitter is a private company, experts say the removal of the president for violating their rules is not a violation of the First Amendment.
Twitter is absolutely allowed to silence the president, as is any other social media platform that can make their own rules. Whether it's silencing him, of course it's not. He could call a press conference.
The ban, which many argue came too late, was also instigated in part by Twitter staffers pressuring executives to delete the president's account. One employee telling NBC News, "A lot of us are so happy and so proud to work for a company that did the right thing."
How big of a difference does all of this make to stopping or at least reducing the disinformation pipeline, all of the conspiracy theories and false information that's out there?
It doesn't really do much to take away that pipeline. What it does do is take away, a voice, at least on these platforms, to one of the most important voices of disinformation, which was the president.
Several of President Trump's allies said they're ditching Twitter for other social media networks like Parler. Google has banned Parler from its app store until it looks into the, quote, ongoing and urgent public safety threat. And during the Capitol riots, you may have seen photos of this man wearing a horned fur hat. That's right, a horned fur hat. The Justice Department says he has turned himself into police. Jacob Anthony Chansley is facing charges of knowingly entering a restricted building without lawful authority, as well as violent entry and disorderly conduct on Capitol grounds. The Justice Department says Chansley traveled for the riot at the president's request for all patriots to come to Washington, D.C. Another man, 41-year-old Douglas Jensen, you see on your screen here, is behind bars on charges that he participated in the riot at the U.S. Capitol. He is from Des Moines and was arrested by FBI and officers Friday night. He faces 5 charges. Those charges include trespassing, disorderly conduct, and violent entry into a Capitol building. One person who rioted at the Capitol is now making a run for office. Jason Riddle, as you see on the screen, is from New Hampshire, and he is a U.S. Army and Navy veteran. He says he made the trip to D.C. to protest the 2020 election results and then decided to follow the mob inside the Capitol. On Thursday, Riddle resigned from his position as mail carrier at the U.S. Postal Service and announced he's running for Cheshire County Commissioner.
I didn't go there to hurt anyone or break anything. I just couldn't. You just see they just broke into the building. I was just in shock. I couldn't believe it was happening.
In Wednesday's riots, over 100 National Guardsmen from New Jersey are now headed to D.C. Troops from Blackwood will join a task force to protect the presidential inauguration on January 20th. More than 6,000 Guard members have been activated and are expected to arrive in D.C. over the next few days. Security experts say to expect a heightened police and military presence leading up to the inauguration.
You're going to see a what I would call very buttoned down Washington, D.C. on Inauguration Day.
Vice President Mike Pence is expected to attend President-elect Joe Biden's inauguration. The news of Pence attending was first reported by the Washington Post, and it comes as President Donald Trump announced he would not be in attendance. The U.S. National Guard may be allowed to carry guns in Washington, D.C. soon. Defense leaders are reviewing restrictions on use of force by National Guard members ahead of the presidential inauguration. Army Secretary Ryan McCarthy told the Associated Press that will be determined by intelligence gathered in the coming days about potential threats. It's up to local commanders to determine if those deployed Guard members from other states are authorized to carry weapons. Demonstrators rallied in Minnesota to demand charges in the shooting of Jacob Blake, an unarmed black man. Dozens of people marched in Minneapolis to seek justice for Blake. Blake was paralyzed after being shot by Kenosha officers. Kenosha County District attorneys decided not to bring criminal charges against the Kenosha police officer who shot Blake. Local activists hope to keep the officer from returning to the job. A Colorado district attorney says no charges will be filed against Aurora police officers who detained a family at gunpoint last year. The DA says there was no evidence officers broke any laws when they mistakenly identified the family's car as stolen. The vehicle's passengers, which were 4 kids between the ages of 6 and 17, were ordered to the ground and some were placed in handcuffs and guns were drawn. An attorney representing the family says they would likely file civil rights lawsuits against the officers and the department.
I think they would have learned something over the last year.
Horrible and as wrong as it was, there just weren't any criminal charges that were warranted.
They need.
In other news, rescue and research crews are at the site of a plane crash in Indonesia. Ships and crews were deployed after a Boeing 737-500 passenger jet crashed into the sea just minutes after taking off. The flight was carrying 56 passengers and 6 crew members. The plane disappeared from the radar after taking off during heavy rain. There's no immediate clues on what caused this sudden descent. As COVID cases continue to rise across the U.S., oxygen supplies are at a critical low in COVID hotspots. Hospital administrators in Arizona and California are reporting oxygen use up to 4 times pre-COVID rates. In some cases, oxygen is running out entirely, sending staff to scramble for resources. Several doctors say they are terrified and will have to ration it and essentially pick who gets life-saving care and who does not.
They're like, hey, this is our last oxygen tank, like portable oxygen. And so I was like that was not something that was on my radar either in my hospital. And so we were able to scramble and find a whole bunch more.
Britain's Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip both got their COVID-19 vaccinations. Buckingham Palace officials say the couple got their shot Saturday, and Windsor Castle, where the couple has been spending their time during the lockdown. They join 1.5 million people in Britain who have already got the first dose of the vaccine.